Good morning, everyone. This side Saumya Grover, Assistant Professor, Jagannath University, Jaipur. In the last session, we have discussed about levels of communication, in which we already talked about intrapersonal communication and interpersonal communication. The next two other forms of communication are group communication and public communication. So let's read about them in depth. Group communication. As the name suggests, when people communicate in group situations, this is known as group communication. This is an extension of interpersonal communication where more than two individuals are involved in the process of communication. In this lesson, we shall focus on types of group and factors affecting our group performance. At any given time, we belong to quite a few groups. These could be social, political, family, academic, religious, vocational, or special interest groups. It is, in fact, impossible to exist independently of all groups. We belong to groups as groups help us in developing our personality. We derive strength and support from groups. Participating in groups results in professional rewards. The meaning of a group. A group is a number of people who have common goal who interact with another to accomplish their goals, recognize each other's existence and see themselves as part of a group. Groups help us in growing, developing our personality and giving us strength and support. Groups can be termed as descriptive term that can be applied to a wide variety of communication practices. In terms of personal communication, it is fair to say that we are mostly engaged in group communication. Communication with or within group. Groups are collections of people we habitually communicate with, often limiting at specific contexts. Factors that affect group communication. There are 5 factors which affect the group performance. These are cohesion, conflict, group size, power structure, group norms. Number 1 is cohesion. It is the degree of closeness among members and sense of group spirit. Cohesion grows out of communication that builds group identity. It is promoted when all members are involved and communicating with each other in the group. Highly cohesive groups are more productive and committed to share goals. This results in high level of satisfaction and involvement. Conflict. Conflict is the result of differences. As groups comprise of individuals with different personality traits, conflict is a common aspect of group behavior. Conflict can be of two types, intra-group conflict and intergroup conflict. Intra-group conflict within the group, has a negative effect on groups' performance and leads to reduced cohesion and decreased productivity. Intergroup conflict between groups, often has a positive effect. It leads to a competitive spirit and results in greater bonding and higher productivity. Next is group size. The number of people in group affects the amount and quality of communication. In a group of less people, each idea is received and interpreted by every member. As the group size increases, the contribution of each member tends to decrease because participation is linked to commitment. Larger groups may generate less commitment to group outcomes than smaller groups. Power structure. Power is the ability to influence others to reach their goals. People who empower others do not emphasize their status. Instead, they act behind the scenes to influence others to help others succeed. Group norms. Norms are guidelines that regulate how members act and interact with each other. Group norms control everything from trivial to critical aspect of group's life. Types of group. The group dynamics can be different as well as complex. For example, the composition, nature, role and objectives of a group that assembles to exercise every morning in a park would be different from the one that gathers to participate in a national seminar of social, educational, political nature, or the one which assembles to discuss the problems of shareholders. Sometimes the group can turn into a mob. For example, a peaceful demonstration of students may turn unruly due to breakdown of communication process with the management of the school. Groups can be small, medium or large in terms of size. The medium and large groups are more organized. In this lesson, we shall deal with small groups. Small groups. A group comprises of 3 to 7 members. Such a group is informal and less structured as compared to larger groups that are more formal in nature. A small group offers more chance for individual participation. It is easy to manage small groups. Small groups are more efficient in decision making and more effective in accomplishing their tasks. There are no rigid rules about the number of members. Functionally, there are two major types of small groups. Number one is a primary group. The group that is most intimate and close is known as the primary group. Such, for instance, are the family, the peer group, the gang, or the clique. The two conditions that give rise to primary groups is a close physical proximity, the small size of the group, which makes for face-to-face association and cooperation. A primary group is very informal in nature. It functions as a support system for its members. A neighborhood meeting is an example of such a group. In a primary group, the conversation is loosely structured. There are no rigid membership rules, no formal place or timings, etc. Such groups are highly flexible in nature. Discussion groups. These groups, on the other hand, are characterized by a less close relationship between members. Such groups are highly formal. Such groups share characteristic features like face-to-face interaction and leadership. All the members of such a group get opportunities to respond, react, and adapt to the communication of other participants while contributing their own. Although such groups sometimes provide pleasant human relationships, sociability is ordinarily not their goal. Discussion groups usually share some common characteristics like same geographic location, similar social class, similar economic level, similar lifestyle, similar educational level. So, while primary groups are relationship oriented, secondary groups are goal oriented and much less cohesive. Examples of secondary groups are the college, the school, the various organizations and unions among others. Responsibilities in a group. The communication process in a group depends on its size, nature, objectives, and dynamics. For example, communication in a small group with members at the same place will be close to interpersonal communication as the receiver can see the sender of the message closely and follow his or her facial expressions, body language, etc. He or she can pose questions and get the doubts clarified and thus obtain feedback. However, when the size of the group increases, there is less scope for understanding and deciphering the movements, body language, and other such things about the speaker. of the individual receiver, and thus the feedback is reduced. Having an open mind towards the issue or topic being discussed and towards the other members of the group, participating constructively, having an objective mind, sensitivity towards others and modes, speaking or interacting with others with accuracy, clarity, and conciseness, avoiding speaking when you have nothing to contribute, addressing the group as a whole, relating your ideas to what others have said, consciously concentrating, visibly responding to the speaker, creating an informal situation, listening to more than just words. Group communication is useful in taking collective decisions on a problem or an issue or on a matter of common interest. Depending on the quality of group members and leaders, effective decisions can be made incorporating conflicting point of views. However, this is not free from limitations. All members of a group may not be able to freely participate in deliberations, as some may be dominant speakers while others too shy or reluctant to express them, thus affecting a free flow of communication. All these factors have greater implications in group communication. Classroom communication also falls under group communication, in which these factors play an important role. Strengths and limitations of group. Strengths. The primary potential strength of group in comparison to individuals are greater resources, more thorough thought, heightened creativity, and enhanced commitment to decisions. A group exceeds any individual in the ideas, perspectives, experiences, and expertise it can bring to bear solving a problem. Groups also tend to be more thorough than individuals, probably because members check and balance each other. Limitations. The two most significant disadvantages of group are the time required for group process and the potential of conformity pressures to interfere with high quality work from groups. In a group discussion, however, all members have an opportunity to voice their ideas and to respond to the ideas others put forward. It takes substantial time for each person to describe ideas, clarify misunderstandings, and respond to questions or criticism. In addition, groups require time to deliberate about alternative courses of action. Groups also have the potential to suppress individuals and encourage conformity. Members have ethical responsibility to communicate in ways that encourage expression of diverse ideas and open debate about different viewpoints. Public speaking. It's a presentation that's given live before an audience. Public speeches can cover a wide variety of different topics. The goal of the speech may be to educate, entertain, or influence the listeners. Slideshows are used to supplement the speech. This makes it more interesting to the listener. Public speaking is the fourth level of mass communication. A public speaking presentation is different from an online presentation. The online presentation is available anytime. A public speech is typically limited to a specific time or place. Online presentations often use slideshows or they use pre-recorded videos of a speaker. This includes recordings of a live public speaking presentation. Because speaking in public is done before a live audience, you need to consider some special factors. We'll touch on those shortly. Now you have got an understanding of the meaning of public speaking, so let's take a quick look at the history of and the importance of public speaking. There's a good chance that there's been public speech in one form or another, as long as there have been people. But most public speaking experts involved with public speaking in business communication trace the origins of modern public speaking back to ancient Greece and Rome. Of course, those societies didn't have slideshows to help with public speech, but they did not have a need for speaking in public. As a result, they developed public speaking methods that are still studied today. The ancient Greeks used public speech primarily to praise or persuade others. At one point, all Greek citizens had the right to suggest or oppose laws during their assemblies. This resulted in a need for skilled public speakers. Speaking in public became a desirable skill and was taught. Public speaking in the time of Greeks was called rhetoric. Later, when Rome came to power, speaking in public was used during the Roman Senate sessions. The Romans adapted the public speaking rhetoric methods of the Greeks. In fact, most public speaking teachers of the time were Greek. Public speaking has expanded its scope with technological advances. Today, many people address mass audiences through an internet connection and from various platforms such as social networks. Public speaking is a humanistic discipline that emerged in the classical era, Greece, and today is the completely autonomous. It is defined as the discipline in charge of providing techniques, skills, rules, and principles for the transmission of oral speeches that manage to captivate large and diverse audiences. Public speaking goes far beyond expressing oneself orally. It seeks to convince, capture the attention, and provoke emotions in the listeners. The first outstanding orator in history was Demosthenes in ancient Greece. Those steps would be followed and perfected by Cicero in ancient Rome. Addressing the masses has always been of vital importance in the political, cultural, economic, and social spheres. Even some mass communication sciences, such as marketing and advertising, use public speaking to sell products and services. Thanks to public speaking, events of great relevance in world history have been developed, and nowadays it only seems to evolve, never to disappear. Wherever I go, meeting the public, spreading a message of human values, spreading a message of harmony is the most important thing. Words by Dalai Lama. The good news about public speaking is that although it may not be on the top of the list of our favorite activities, anyone can learn to give effective presentations. You don't have to look like a Hollywood star and you don't have to use fancy words to be a successful speaker. What is important is that the audience understands you and remembers what you have to say. By learning and using the techniques provided in this reading material, you will discover how to create engaging speeches and present them using your own delivery style. The Latin style of public speaking was popular in the US and Europe until the mid 20th century. After World War II, a less formal and more conversational speaking style of speaking became popular. Also, electronic tools became available to enhance public presentations. Towards the end of the 20th century, those electronic tools migrated to the computer. They evolved into the computer software tools. PowerPoint is one of those tools that we know and use today. Don't be fooled though. Even though today's public speeches are less formal, they still need to be well organized. More on that later. Now let's take a look at the importance of public speaking. Nature of public speaking. Public speaking is an art, the useful art of communication with other human beings. The art of communication. Art is human activity. It develops skill in the performance of a mental or a physical endeavor. It differs from science and is that art of It differs from science in that art is concerned with doing, whereas science is concerned with knowing. Let us take the fine arts by way of illustration. The purpose of the fine arts is to give deep pleasure, aesthetic pleasure, pleasure experienced out of a sense of beauty. To give that pleasure concreteness, fine arts portray it by means of imitating or interpretation of life in terms of artistic conventions, as in painting and sculptures. Public speaking is not a conventionalized representation of life. It is life itself, a natural function of life, a real communication by one human being with his fellow men, and it is best when it is most real. Some people confuse public speaking with elocution. Some are under the impression that our agonizing performance in elocution is public speaking. Public speaking is not a fine art that requires a special talent, years of training, masterly technique, artistic soul, a thing essential a thing essentially artificial, mysteriously unreal, only to be successfully performed by a temperamental genius. As a matter of fact, however, a public speaker is a talker rather than a doer. The mental relationship between the speaker and the audience. The timid and nervous speaker views the audience as a terrifying presence rather than an essential factor in the purpose of a speech. For example, a speaker preparing speech should not aim to tell about the United Nations. Instead, he should bear in mind that his aim is to tell his audience something about United Nations. The speaker should think of his audience, not merely about his subject and certainly not about himself. The most common problem of the student speaker is how to get the subject of his talks off his chest. It is wise to remember that beautiful self expression is not the modern idea of public speaking. Beautiful self expression may be useful, but it is not essential. Good speaking, then, whether public or private, is communication. A sharing of something with others. The word communication is derived from the Latin word Munus, a business, communis, common, and communico, to confer or consult with one another. The spirit of give and take or mental contact should persist during the delivery of speech. The student who wants to speak effectively and who doesn't must realize that the essential mental relationship between the speaker and his audience is always the same. No matter how large or how small the audience may be, or how formal or informal the occasion may be, the only difference lies in vocal force, style, and degree of formality to suit the occasion and allied circumstances. The dissimilarity is more quantitative than qualitative with reference to posture, gesture, tone, vocabulary, phraseology, and parliamentary forms. For public speaking is merely expanded private conversation or conversational communication. The relationship between the speaker and the audience should be direct. There should be no barrier of distance or remoteness between the speaker and the audience. No dreamy look on the speaker's face, no faraway tone in his tone, in his voice. In other words, the speaker should be in mental contact with the audience. Reciprocal. The response from the audience as expected and given is not necessarily revealed in words of or laughter or applause. It may be more clearly revealed in active attention and clear understanding. For this reason, the speaker should anticipate the unspoken objections of the audience or the blocks to his communication with them. Sincere. The speaker should have a topic that is morally and intellectually sound. His purpose must be natural, genuine, and honest. This usually removes the barrier between the speaker and the audience. The purpose of public speaking. Perhaps the worst enemy of effective public speaking is the notion the student commonly holds that his real purpose is to get over with his assignment fast. That notion has nothing to do with his purpose as a speaker in relation to his subject and his audience. Inform the audience. When a speaker's main goal is to give his audience information, especially information that is brand new to them, his main goal is to inform. When he seeks to improve their knowledge, his goal is to inform. His goal is to increase the number of facts that his audience has stored in their memory. An illustration of this is when a lecturer lectures in class. To enlighten. The speaker's primary concern in this instance is to clear up some difficulty of comprehension, to present a new perspective with reference to the relationship of facts, to improve his hearer's understanding of a given subject by means of a lucid explanation. An example is the basketball coach giving an explanation of a set play pattern or maneuver. To persuade, a speaker in this type of speech aims at the attainment of the accent of his audience to a debatable assertion. The acceptance of a statement as true or the adoption of an opinion. It is not just knowledge or understanding that he seeks. He aims to seek agreement, though he may use knowledge or understanding as a means to achieve it. Examples are the congressman sponsoring a bill or the lawyer arguing a point of law in court. To impress, a speaker has the particular purpose in mind if he seeks to bring to his hearers a new and deeper realization of a truth. It may be an old truth, previous known to the hearers, but the speaker does not intend to make them understand the truth fully, but to make the attention, appealing to the sympathies and associating emotion with thought. Examples are the commencement speaker unraveling before the graduating class the gravity at their coming responsibilities in life, the preacher awakening a new reverence of spirit for a biblical truth, or the speaker presenting an award to a war hero. To actuate. In this instance, the speaker aims to persuade his listeners to perform a definite act either at the time of the speech or very soon after. The appeal may be emotional or intellectual, or it may be combination of both. Some people may assent to the truth of a given proposal, yet they may not be too motivated to act upon their convictions. It is often necessary to arouse their emotions so as to overcome their natural inertia and provide a motive force. Some examples are the politician campaigning for votes, the civic or religious leader appealing for contributions, or the speaker seeking support for the eye bank, the blood bank, or Operations Quick Count. To entertain. Here, the speaker's purpose is to give his listeners pleasure. The pleasure may be of a mirthful or a more serious kind. Entertainment does not necessarily imply hilarity. Examples are the after dinner speech and the popular lecture purporting to be educational but is primarily intended to entertain. The importance of public speaking. If you ask most people, they will probably say that they don't like public speaking. They may even admit to being afraid of it since fear of public speaking is a very common fear. Or they may just be shy or introverted. For those reasons, many people avoid speaking in public if they can. If you are one of those people who avoid speaking in public, you are missing out. Over the years, public speaking in communication has played a major role in education, government, and business. Words have the power to inform, persuade, educate, and even entertain. And the spoken word can be even more powerful than the written word in the hands of the right speaker. Whether you are a small business owner or a student, you will be benefit from improving your public speaking skills. Some benefits to speaking in public include improves confidence, better research skills, stronger deductive skills, ability to advocate for causes. To win over the crowd. An important skill to have in business and especially in the public relations arena is the skill of persuasion or the ability to win over the crowd. Inside and outside the workplace, the power of persuasion can carry you far, and it all starts by owning those public speaking skills. Mastering public speaking results in an increase in confidence, and with that, a cool and collected presence in front of an audience. Of course, it is imperative to be knowledgeable about the subject you are presenting. But beyond that, when making a persuasive speech of any kind, including a sales pitch to a client, you need to be prepared to answer the opposition and to speak with poise. To make a strong case, the ability to speak publicly is not only important but essential to make forward strides. For example, in order to express why a certain product or idea would be an interesting topic to an editor of a publication, one must use strong enough convincing language to elicit intrigue and curiosity. A great pitch will persuade the consumer or editor to want to know more. When addressing any audience with an idea or argument for or against something, public speaking allows you to make your case compellingly and convincingly. To motivate people, a great public speaker attains the power to motivate his or her audience to do something, stop doing something, change a behavior, or reach objective. But to carry an idea forward, you must be able to excite and enliven your peers, employees, co-workers, consumers. Public speakers are leaders who are able to inspire their audience to work harder to achieve their goals. As a public speaker, your role is to influence your listeners and create an environment where everyone walks out ready to roll. You are not merely giving a speech in the attempt to get your audience to take a certain actions. Speakers are part of the action and can convey their passion and drive. It is not enough to simply know about the issue at hand, but to make your audience share your passion. Elections have been won simply because one candidate was a better public speaker than the other. Being knowledgeable is a factor, of course, but more importantly, being able to arouse passion in people through skilled public speaking will motivate your audience to make a move. When people talk about having a voice in the world, they mean having an impact on the world by voicing your thoughts and your knowledge in an exciting way. A mastery of public speaking allows you to relate to the audience and gain their trust. As a skilled public speaker, you will become likable and believable, and you will be able to inspire and even entertain the crowd. According to a study by sociologist Andrew Zachary, oral communication skills were the number one skill that college graduates found useful in the business world. Communication skills enhance your ability to interact with professional and fellow colleagues in a qualified and composed manner. Public speaking improves these skills and thus makes you more worthy candidate to move up and succeed in your chosen field. Components of public speaking. Illustration. An illustrated speech is a speech presented for the same purposes as the formal speech with the addition of visual aids such as charts, pictures, slides, models, or posters. The illustrated speech is used when purpose is to leave a more vivid impression and to stimulate greater interest in the audience. Voice modulation. Voice modulation is when you control or adjust your voice. It's when you choose to go louder or softer, faster or slower, dramatic or emotional. Basically, voice modulation means using your voice and tone to communicate your message more effectively. Example: be loud and clear. Being loud doesn't mean that you have to shout. Practice variation. You can look up for some steps that you can practice in order to develop the desired voice. Stress on powerful words. Create a crowd pleasing speech, effective pauses. The power of the pause in public speaking. One of my favorite quotes by the Dalai Lama is: sometimes one creates a dynamic impression by saying something, and sometimes one creates as significant an impression by remaining silent. Pausing is one of the most powerful tools you have when you speak. When we get nervous, we tend to rush through our words, which unfortunately makes us look nervous. By pausing, we can feel and appear more comfortable and confident in front of an audience. Pauses regulate the rhythm of your speech like that of a natural conversation. They also help you collect your thoughts before moving on to the next piece of information. By pausing, you can accomplish a number of things. Principles of effective public speaking. Principle of preciseness. Preciseness Precision is a quality of accuracy and exactness. A refined measurement or calculation or even movement can be precise. Precision means that each time you complete a specific objective, it is in the exact same way as it was done before and will be done again. Precision can be practiced in the simplest to the most complex forms of movement. Precision encourages your awareness, balance, control, and flow to coordinate in a seamless manner. Focusing on precision allows us to be present and connected to all parts of ourselves and truly give 100%. Principle of clarity. The idea or message to be communicated should be clearly spelled out. It should be worded in such a way that the receiver understands the same thing which the sender wants to convey. There should be no ambiguity in the message. It should be kept in mind that the words do not speak themselves, but the speaker gives them the meaning. A clear message will evoke the same response from the other party. It is also essential that the receiver is conversant with the language, inherent assumptions, and the mechanics of communication. Principle of completeness. When creating a message, it is important to give the recipient all of the information they need to follow your line of reasoning and to reach the same conclusions you have. This level of detail will be different in different situations and you should adjust your communications accordingly. In addition, you should make things as easy as possible for the recipient. For example, if you are issuing a call to action, provide explicit guidance on that action. Increasingly, it is common to include things like hyperlinks in written communications or to attach data, both of which will help audiences access a complete set of information while also ensuring that core communications focus on core messages. Principle of conciseness. The principle of conciseness is the gift we have to be aware of what we have created from thought and to be aware that we are creating it. It is what brings us the capacity to see and experience life unfolding as our thinking constantly changes. Conciseness is that which allows every human being to be aware of life. It brings your senses to life. Your seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and touching. It is through your senses that you are able to be aware of life. Principle of adaptation. The principle of adaptation refers to the process of the body getting accustomed to a particular exercise or training program through repeated exposure. As the body adapts to the stress of the new exercise or training program becomes easier to perform and explains why beginning exercisers are often sore after starting a new routine. But after doing the same exercise for weeks and months at the same intensity, the exerciser experiences little, if any, muscle soreness. This reinforces the need to constantly vary the exercise and training routine if you want to maximize your results. Adaptations refers to the body's ability to adjust to increased or decreased physical and mental or psychological demands. It is also one way we learn to coordinate muscle movement and develop sports specific skills such as batting, swimming, freestyle, or shooting free throw. This is in all about levels of communication. We have already taught about intrapersonal communication, interpersonal communication, and today we have discussed about group communication and public speaking, public communication. Thank you very much.